All right, I'm back. Good morning, everyone. I actually didn't go anywhere. I just sat here and watched everybody pile in. So I want to say good morning to everyone. Wow, your names are all on the right side of the screen now. You all have changed seats on me. That's cool. You can have the right side of the audience. I was liking you on the left, but here you are now. That's cool. So welcome, everyone. And I just wanted to say good to be here. It's almost July 4th. So some of you may celebrate it, some of you don't if you're overseas. But it's kind of going to be one of those weeks that I'm going to spend more of my time enjoying myself than I am trading. Actually, I enjoy myself trading a whole lot, but I'm going to spend my time doing other things. It's actually massage week for me. I got one yesterday. I'm getting one today. Tango lessons tonight. Then I'm going to the mountains. So I hope you guys take the time out to enjoy your July 4th. So happy July 4th or pre-July 4th, everyone. And so let's begin. How's trading been for everybody? How's trading been to start off the week? Sunday was decent. Actually, we started getting decent going in the European session. And then Monday was kind of semi-humdrum. The real winners this week, I think, have been the yen pairs and the dollar CAD. Those have been the real players this week. Everything else has been pseudo-decent. Pound dollar's gotten a little exciting. But how's trading going so far? People making money, doing solid, decent? How are we all doing? Any comments from the Peanut FX Street Gallery? Maybe trouble for a pound Swiss pair. Ooh, I like this. We're starting off with a request. Let's do it. All right, so I'll come back to my Aussie Yen 30-minute, which is a hot chart. Aussie's just been a hot chart, period. Okay, so you're saying their 30-minute Ichimoku trade that there may be trouble for a pound Swiss pair. Are you thinking, let's zoom in just a little bit here, are you thinking there may be a potential upside cross here? Is that what you're looking at? Because the cross at least I'm seeing so far on the 30-minute chart is a downward cross, but it's above the cloud here. So that would be a weak sell signal here. Now, if it starts getting bullish and it continues to climb up and then we cross, then it could execute actually a very nice cross here. The cross would probably be above the cloud, which would mean a strong signal. And that could carry this thing out of this kind of slumbering range it's been in, this 200 pip range. So that being said, if that's what you're looking at, yeah, this is definitely a potential for an upside cross. It seems to be getting bullish as we speak. And so this is quite a large candle, and it's still growing. So somebody poured some water on this thing, and now it's growing a little bit here. So yeah, definitely, this is a potential signal right here. I want to take a look at the dailies just to see. It's probably pretty boring, pretty flat. Okay, so we're in just a relative consolidation or corrective period right now. So if you were to take this trade, I would say keep it quick. I would say just because of the daily range has been very tight, I wouldn't be expecting hundreds and hundreds of pips out of it. Exactly, above the Kumo, below the Kumo, above the Kumo, below the Kumo. Wow, it's totally cool. We're all starting to get really good Ichimoku language. So maybe I can get some little Ichimoku badges for you or something like that, or I don't know, something. But anyways, yeah, so because of the whole oscillation above and below the cloud, in terms of the Japanese and how they look at this, they would just be like, you know what, I'm just stepping aside. They would draw lines. They would probably put price alerts on these charts here, and they would say, you know, when it gets above or below, I'll get an alert, and other than that, I don't really want to pay attention to this pair. They may check it out on a 30-minute chart, but even again, look at it, you know, any sort of 30-minute signal that you had really hasn't been too solid. However, the sell-off was pretty decent when it sold off and got rejected at 205.50. We had a crossover, a weak crossover, but then we had a nice follow-up crossover and then another follow-up crossover. So this one wasn't bad. In fact, it came really nicely up to the cloud support and then pretty much got rejected there. And then this one had the almost cloud touch and then the nice sell-off here. So these little types of moves, you know, that would have probably done good. But now in this current state, you know, it needs to be cattle prodded before we could really see anything there. So I used to work on a farm, so I've worked with cattle prods. I didn't really like using cattle prods. I almost liked using them more on humans than I did on cattle. So So yeah, I think we're going to need to see some sort of injection come on into this thing here. A little taser action or something. Other than that, I'd say stand aside. But keep an eye on this one. It's definitely a potential alert. All right. Well, thanks for finding that there, Jack. That was much appreciated. So let's move on to the next one. I'm going to talk about a few of the yen pairs. Actually, we're going to be focusing mostly on the yen pairs, particularly one hot yen pair, just because the price action has been great on both sides of the market, whether it's been sold off or bought up. And so this is not it yet, but the dollar yen has been hot to trade lately. Hot to trade and hot to trot. All right, so let's take a look at the 1 hour. The 1 hour has really been the most impressive chart for me. It missed the initial move, I think, on the 1 hour. I think it got on the 30 minutes. But what happened is that what I think is interesting about this one here is that take a look at this little move here. So we have the impulsive, corrective, impulsive, corrective, impulsive. Then we get impulsive, but all of a sudden it just starts to run into a wall. And it was kind of this little price action made me a little suspicious because it wasn't a fib. And so the first thing I want to do is take a look at pivot, and we ran right into a pivot. When you see kind of some sort of price action where it's running into a pivot and the cloud top there, particularly on a yen-based pair during the Asian session, keep an eye on that one there because that means that the Asians are not comfortable sending this pair back. I mean, they spent all these hours here. Let's see where the New York would have been. They spent 1, 2. Okay, so here we're now, at this time, we're in Wellington, basically. Wellington's already opened. In fact, Australia is just starting to open. So Australia comes in, Wellington came in, Australia, and then Tokyo comes in right about here. And they tried a little attempt, and they just couldn't do it. And so, you know, several hours of price action in the Asian session just rejected. So when you see this kind of running into a wall, first check for a pivot. If it's coming to a cloud top, even better. Oh boy. Cloud top and pivot in the Asian session coming together. Next thing you're going to want to look for is divergence. We're going to want to see if the momentum oscillator and the MACD histogram are pointing in the opposite direction. And take a look. Price action is moving straight to the side, but then the peak of momentum was the end of it. And so this could be a good, nice little fade move there, using the cloud and pivot combo as a sort of as a player, a fade entry there, basically. And so, yes, Sydney, I'll be happy to get to your US dollar. It's hard to go through a program without touching on that pair. So, you know, I do have the clear divergence here. And so we have the nice momentum. We have the nice MACD histogram divergence here. We have price action going to the side, pivot, and cloud top coming together here. To me, this is an excellent trade for a nice fade back to ideal would be I would look for a full retracement back down to this portion on the move. But I would take the pivot that's closest to it just to be a little bit more conservative, especially since volatilities are down as a whole. And so this would be this is a method that you're going to see again and again and again, especially as the yen pairs continue on in the types of moves that they've been doing, which is the downward swings here. So keep an eye on that one. Pivot, cloud top, fade, reversal, divergence from momentum and MACD histogram. All right, so we have now a request for your US dollar. I am your DJ for this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. MC Second Skies here, MC Skies. So we're going to take you on a little journey at 30,000 pips. And let's take a look at your dollar. So first of all, let me start with dailies. And that's too many lines. No, it's not. All right, so first of all, looking at it right now, what does the Ichimoku Cloud saying? Well, what it's saying is a couple things. First of all, the cloud itself is getting somewhat small. We're seeing an interesting convergence of the Tenkin, the 20 EMA, and the cloud, which is kind of interesting. So that means if it's going to bounce on some sort of intraday level, that's going to be the place. But the thing is that the cloud is very, very thin, suggested that the thing could easily just dice right through this. So it probably wouldn't put up too much of a fight. You know, it would take a little bit, and then boom, it would probably, you know, slice through quite easily. So I wouldn't necessarily, if you're going to play this, I'd play this one with caution. If you're going to play the bounce off the cloud and the EMA and Tenkin line support, which is a nice convergence there. then I would say half positions, half your normal size positions. And so that would be how I play this one here. Now, one thing to note, look at our momentum oscillators here. Momentum is still very high, and so is the MACD histogram here. It's high, and it's not diverging like, these other attempts here. So price action, we saw is momentum falling, but look at this touchdown here, momentum way down. We're not seeing that here. And so very rarely are the peaks in momentum the absolute peaks in the actual move. I mean, perfect example, peak in momentum, not the peak in the move. Even right here, actually this is the actual peak of momentum. And so momentum started to fall off a little bit early before it started to sell off. Same thing here. So the fact that momentum is still pointing up would lean me much more towards the buy side than the sell side right now. Probably 2-to-1 I'd favor this one here. So that is what it's saying on a daily chart. Let's go to the intraday chart and see if we have anything else coming up. Well, we did have an excellent, no we didn't. Oh, we did. Towards the end of last week when the euro dollar started to get bullish, we had a nice little buy signal here. Maybe the volatility might have kind of scrapped you out of this one. Depends on this one here. This was the big rate announcement. But we had some nice little Ichimoku buy signal here above that. Very, very handsome, actually. And took you for a nice little run there. Since then, we've exited out, and then it looks like it may be wanting to activate another buy signal here. Do we have any pivots? The M2 is decent. So, but nothing uber fantastic right now. On an intraday, it kind of looks like it wants to unwind just a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily call this a sell signal to the downside. I have to really see how the Tenkan line or the Kijun line behave. But the cloud is of decent size, and so it suggests that this thing wants to kind of keep pulling itself upward after small retracements. So in the short term, I'm a little bit on the bearish side, especially with the lower top. But on the medium-term swing basis, I'm on the bullish side for this pair. So let's take a look at a 30-minute and see if I can find negative Ghost Rider. The pattern is full here. So we may have a potential, if we were to get a really nice sell-off and a break of this right here, then you could probably see some really good price action open up here to the downside. So we've had kind of this interesting little floor here. Not a pivot level. It's like a mid pivot. So, yeah. My guess is if we were to break this floor, we would have a nice crossover inside the cloud. That could open up some price action to the downside. And then where would we be headed? Well, let's find out. I think the fibs would probably tell the tale on this one. I mean, this is the run since the whole Bernanke thing here. Ooh, now we know why. There you go, fib level protection. So a break of this fib level would create a crossover signal here, and that means pretty much you'd be almost guaranteed to make it towards this second fib here. And yeah, that's actually a very solid support there. And then the 56.52 is also decent as well. So 50 or 61A would be your destination after that. This would be the bus stop. This would be the flight, basically. And so potential downside signal on euro dollar. Mr. Lyons, my man, good to see you again. Good to have requests from you. So you want to see senior pound yen. Okay, let's take a look at senior pound yen. Senior pound yen has created many follow-through signals this week. The initial signal was a weak one, but then boom, boom. And so we had two nice follow-ups after that one. Nice little follow-up, nice little follow-up. All resulted in really nice positive trades. And also the beauty of the Ichimoku is that it kind of gets you in almost where it would get you out. So for example, this one here gets you in up here, gets you out over here. Look where it re-gets you in. It's almost like you were in just one position the whole time, but you reduced risk as the position swung back. So very nice. It works very handsome on the 30-minute here, particularly when you see these nice downward zigzags or swings on it. Also, the Ichimoku kind of works really well with fibs. So the other thing about it is that it'll probably keep you in the trade, just a little bit longer, depending on the situation. But when you see these little zigzags and it's at a nice downward angle, look for the in out on the Ichimoku. Both of them resulted in plus 100 pip trades each. Since then, it's gone kind of choppy here. We've gotten weak signal, another weak signal. We may have a potential buy signal here if we were to get bullish, and the lower highs suggest that's a possibility. But momentum and intraday oscillators are not really favoring of this. So we would really need to climb before we'd see anything. On a 1 hour chart, we had the same thing, followed up with a weak signal. Tenkin line is above here. So it looks like this thing is going to want to have to clear this 211.50. Now, one thing I would like to talk about is also, this is where we see that same move I was telling you earlier in dollar yen. Except we didn't quite get to the pivot on this one here. Close, but not the cigar. So notice how it ran right up into a wall. All the yen pairs kind of ran into a wall from the end of New York, and then Asian session, they just said, no, we're not taking this any further for sure. And the divergence was kind of cueing us ahead of time, saying, look, I'm going to give you a few hours notice here. This thing is probably going to hold right here. And it did exactly that. So the divergence played itself out. It made it all the way down to 210. 2 hour is good yen pairs all down. You want to take a look at the 2 hour? Sure. Two hours not bad. It really depends on the pair. It really depends on the type of move. I've been liking the 30-minute and the 1 hour. They're my favorites, especially for getting these types of moves here. Whereas the 2 hour wouldn't catch this type of move here. Wouldn't get the in out, and continue doing that. It depends on what you're playing though. Ow! I just burned my foot on my hot pot. Good God. Okay, so yeah, basically in terms of what you want to know where our next move is, I would say that right now, until it breaks 211.50, there's no reason to be buying it. And we may have a downward crossover if we were to break below 209.50. So that's my analysis on pound yen. We're kind of in a mixed bag right now. The Tenkin 20 EMA and the Kijun line are all kind of hanging out at the bar right here at 211. All right, so let's move on here. Jack, are those pairs you want to look at, or just ones you're commenting on that are good with the 2 hour? While you're doing that, put a little more sweetener in my tea. Okay. All right, well, let's move on. Still got 10-hour pairs. Okay. So we've covered dollar yen. We've covered pound yen. One thing I do want to cover actually on pound yen real quick. Take a look at this. All right, so clearly still in a corrective move. This is not impulsive by any means. It's steady, but it's still corrective. I mean, if we look at this here, it only took, what, a dozen days, a dirty dozen days, maybe a baker's dozen days to sell off from 213.75 to 193. And yet it's taken a whopping 3 months just to get right back there. So clearly corrective in nature. What I do find is interesting is that we've had not only 4 days of selling, but for the first time in a while, not only is the 20 EMA being tested, but the Tenkin line is now over the price action. So for a while, the price action was above it. We had a few flickers below, but it never really had some sort of overhanging type feel to it. Now it has this kind of overhead type feel. It's kind of a lurking over. On top of it, momentum oscillators are actually very bearish right now. Massive divergence here, massive divergence here. And you're seeing that the Tenkin line, the 20 EMA, are starting to curl over. And the Kijun line is not coming up to support. This may be kind of cueing us into a nice little rollover on the pound yen. It suggests, this right here, the Tenkin line and 20 EMA, now coming up on top, are suggesting that this thing might be rolling down in alignment with our momentum oscillators there. And so that being the case, keep an eye on this one here. This one could be actually in for a serious fade off or sell off. Many of the yen pairs have suffered lately, And pound has only been kind of holding on because of the upward pound dollar movement, not because of any sort of pound yen strength. It's really just kind of been carried, and even then, it's still losing ground. Pound dollar is up like 350 pips in the last week, and this pair is down about 300 pips. So it's not totally, it's barely holding on to its ups, any sort of gains whatsoever. And so, all right, so Libra 02, what about pound Swiss? It went up and not crash. All right, let's check back in with pound Swiss. Pound Swiss is on the hot seat right now. You're saying it went up and not crashed? It looks like it went up and it was up like 33.24 when we last checked in. It was like way up here. So yeah, I really don't have any bias on this one here. Unless we see like a major break of the 202, then we'd have an active sell signal because we'd have a crossover towards the top of the cloud. Someone made a prediction it'll crash an hour ago. Oh, I have no idea who that person is. So you'll have to talk to them about that. But that's okay. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and everybody has ideas, and you know, it's important that we look and see if there's wisdom and intelligence in what they're saying. Usually, I can find intelligence in most of what people are suggesting here. All right, so now that we're out of the pound Swiss, anyways, that's what pound yen. Let's move on to euro yen. Yen pairs are in the hot seat right now. Okay, same thing here with the euro yen as with pound yen. And so what we're seeing is that for the first time in a long time, the Tenkan line is really starting to act as some sort of overhanging resistance, so to say. It's kind of tracking downwards here. Momentum also divergent on this one, and same thing with the MACD histogram. And so all of this is suggesting maybe there needs to be a little bit of unwinding. The only thing about this one is that this one is much more bullish than the pound yen. It's a much stronger angle. It's impulsive by all means. And it went up to the all-important 169 resistance, which was the all-time high for this pair until it was the Deutschmark before. It actually created a new all-time high, about 40 pips. So that being the case, this thing is much stronger than the pound yen is. But even then, we're still seeing 4 days of selling off and no reversal in sight here. So suggestive that, you know what, this thing may be unwinding a minute. 3 days of selling is taking out about 8 days worth of price action here. And we're now threatening to get a close below the 20 EMA. It's like it's holding on to the 20 EMA here. But there's a gravity that's happening here with the momentum oscillators. They're all suggesting further downside in the cards, and that a move to 165 is probably the most likely location of that, at least in the short term. Now, do we have any sort of fibs that we need to pay attention to? Let's take a look. Oh boy, 38.2 is right there at 165. Also where the Kijun line is. And then let's see if we extend this just a little bit further. I doubt we'll have anything that high up. Nothing for a while. So I think this is your major fib you got to watch out for here. 165 seems to be pulling it. Seems to be a gravity here. And for the first time in a long time, the Kijun line is acting now as an overhead resistance. Sell signal on the 30-minute Tenkan cross down the Kijun and close below the Kumo pound Swiss. Man, we just keep going back to the pound Swiss here. Good God. All right. Well, let's take a look at it one more time. Yeah, but the crossover, where is the crossover? The Tenkan did cross the Kijun, but it crossed above. So to me, it's a weak signal. It's not a sell signal. We don't take weak signals. We only take medium and strong sell signals. Medium signal would be inside the cloud. Strong signal would be below the cloud. So I try and filter out all weak signals possible. So to me, this would not be a sell signal. Just for clarification, I want to make sure that everybody gets this correct. Everybody understands that I do not take weak signals by any means. So that being the case, so anyways, that's where we're at on this one right here. All right, I've gone over euro yen, and I want to talk about Aussie dollar, and then I want to really spend some time focusing on Aussie yen. Aussie dollar, let's take a look at the 1 hour here. Why did I want to look at the 1 hour? That is interesting. All right, actually, what I wanted to look for on this one here is, that's a good question. Maybe I didn't have my tea at this point. Well, I'm going to scratch that one. So let's move on to Aussie yen. This is the hot one. Been the hot one. Will still be the hot one for a while. Okay. So Aussie yen has created the follow-through type effect. We had this nice little sell-off here, which also on a daily candle, on a daily chart, was an outside reversal day. The last show that I did here, I suggested that this outside reversal should continue with the follow-through, but there really is no impetus to be buying this pair anytime soon. And that's exactly what's happened. The pair has sold out 3 days since then, and since it broke the 20 EMA, we've seen a new flood of orders come in this pair. It's gotten much more bearish, much more impulsive once we broke the 20 EMA. Also look at the 20 EMA Kijun tanking convergence here. And same thing for the yen pairs. This is the first time with the Aussie yen in forever and a day that this is now turned over. It's actually eclipsed the previous line, the line before it, and it's now kind of curling downward along with these other two EMAs. This is going to be resistance now. 102 will probably be a sell-off rally point for any sort of pullbacks. 102 will probably act as some sort of resistance. On top of it, we had the momentum spill over here, so there was a nice little floor just above the zero line, and then it's just spilled over. Same thing with the MACD, it's just spilled over here. So unless there is just some magical buy orders here, and this really is the end of the sell-off here, I'm very doubtful that this thing is going to bounce hard from here. My suspicion is that Aussie yen is going to continue to dump further. And so I'm personally looking for pullbacks on this one here. Everything according to Ichimoku Cloud analysis is saying this thing has got further to go. Now, do we have any sort of fibs that we have to keep an eye on here? Well, there really isn't a fib till 97. Mind you, this thing has climbed since when? I mean, sub 90. This thing has climbed since 88. So we're talking about 1,500 pips this thing has gone. This thing needs to unwind a little bit, and it's done it over almost 4 months now. So this thing needs to unwind just a little bit. It was a little bit shy of the bull target of 105. But bottom line is that little Dow scare and the whole Goldman Sachs downgrading of investment banks hasn't been positive. Should you short it is the question here from Libra02. Well, I would personally wait for a pullback on this one here. I would probably wait towards the 102, and let's see what 102 is. 102 is actually very handsome. I'll bet you there's some sort of pivot in the way there. Yeah, daily pivot, bam. So the thing was just right at that thing and just could not do anything with it. The Kijun line acted as a resistance along with this here. It never even made it to the cloud top. So here we got close to the cloud top, but this time we never even got to it, suggesting that selling pressure was on. So I personally wait to pullbacks to 102 before I consider that. Also, it really depends on the nature of the pullback right here. We're seeing an interesting bounce. This thing did bounce just shy of the 100 level, 122, and we're now seeing a 72 pip bounce ensue. It's not an engulfing candle by any means, but it's definitely bullish. And so this is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on here. If it correctively makes its way to 102, and you see divergence on the momentum oscillator in the MACD, and you see this nice, you see a pivot and cloud top lineup, which I think it does, that could be a very handsome place to be shorting it, just sub 102. So that would be, I would personally wait before I go shorting it. The Ichimoku signal has already passed. On the 1 hour, it was already gone, but on the 30-minute, it had the same thing like the pound yen, the in, out, in, out. So we missed this one, but boom, you have this one here, and then it gets you in another one right here, just above 102, gets you out of about 101.50, gets you back in above 101.50, and we'd still be in this one today. So that's personally how I'd be relating to this one here. I would say watch this one on the 30-minute chart. The yen pairs, when they dip, they have their little zigzag patterns. They're excellent to watch on the 30-minute charts there. Now, if we were to break above the Kijun line here and see a little crossover, that would be a little bit of pause to see how it behaves going up towards the 102 resistance level. Sell at the Kijun or Kumo. Is it good for entering in a downtrend? I would personally wait for, in this case, a crossover or a pivot cloud run-in, basically. So I'd want to wait till we get back towards the 102 resistance and the daily pivot here, which is an excellent resistance. It acted as a ceiling here before. You also have a cloud top here. I'd want to wait for some sort of convergence of multiple resistance layers coming in here. Let's also take a look at one more thing here and see how momentum is calling this sort of bounce. So right now, price action has eclipsed. It's right at the 38.2. It's in between the 38.2 and the 50 fib. Let's see what momentum is saying here. Let's draw momentum from the same line. Okay, momentum is only at the 38.2, whereas here price action is above the 38.2. In fact, momentum is just shy of it. To me, that tells me that momentum is not behind this move. So price action is slightly ahead of it at best. At best, price action is dead even or in lockstep with momentum. And so you're welcome, Libra. Hopefully that helps. I'll see you next round as well. So to me, because of the slightly price action being ahead of momentum, that tells me the momentum is not behind this move and that the next move should be a leg down in this pair. That this pair won't be able to really sustain any massive upside pressure. So that's my analysis on this one here. Wait for pivot, Kumo Cloud kind of convergence, and then look for a sell. Okay, so that is where we are with the Aussie yen. So now we're going to move into pick a pair, any pair, or Final Jeopardy. We're going to take a look at pairs that you're looking at, trades you're in right now, things you're potentially looking at. And so now it's time for you guys. What kind of Aussie dollar? When? Good to have you here. All right, let's take a look at 30-minute first. Aussie dollar got again rejected at the 76.50 level. Momentum hasn't diverged. It hasn't gotten impulsive, suggested that this thing is slowly trekking down. Notice how the nice little convergence of the 20 EMA, Tenkan, and Kijun line all came together, acted as a nice resistance, and then it sold off since then. And then same thing here. We came up to a pivot 20 EMA, Kijun line convergence, and then sold off since then. So this thing had a lot of orders to chew through, a lot of layers of resistance, and it just wasn't good enough. There just wasn't enough to really send this pair in a new direction. So look at where it stopped, though. It stopped not only right on a pivot, but just sub 95. Let's take a look at the daily. I think on a long-term basis, I'm still hands down bullish on the Aussie dollar. Once it broke above 8,000, I was writing my beginning of the year articles, and once it broke above 8,000, it pretty much opened up a glass ceiling for this pair to just take off. And, you know, we had 9,000 should have been an easy one. Parity was definitely potentially touted. Now every economist is saying parity, but, you know, they're saying it only a few hundred pips shy. Try and call it when you're, you know, 1,000 or 2,000 pips away. So notice how the pullbacks are really being contained in the daily chart by the Kumo. And so, you know, it kind of dips below the 20 EMA Kijun Tenkan, but then they all start to come back together again. And so the things are, you know, again, same thing here, and then they all come back together again. So the bottom line is this is still in a long-term uptrend. So if you're holding this position for more than 3 days, I would only want to be long on it and nothing else. Would I be short on it on an intraday time frame? Absolutely, I would be short on it. Just depends if the right setup is there. Now let's take a look at some of this price action here. So first of all, let's see how it's behaved with the fibs over time. We had a nice 50 fib combo here, 38.2 there. Is anything, nope, too far away. So really, this thing has just kind of been well supported by the cloud. The one thing about it is this. Through these little legs, there's an increase in the ceiling. But through this last leg, which was, quite a decent effort here, there wasn't any new ceiling. So it was the first time in a long time we haven't created a new ceiling. Even on this little leg, we created sort of a new ceiling. But we really didn't create a new one here. So it's definitely left some reason to pause. Momentum is not massively divergent, so it seems like that the thing will probably be contained on dips. I would say dips are good buying opportunities unless we see some sort of massive impulsiveness to the downside. Dips will be good buying opportunities. The only thing also is we do have kind of a candlestick reversal pattern here. So on a short-term basis, I would like to be short. On a medium-term basis and a long-term basis, I would like to be long, hands down. No doubt about it. So I'm personally waiting for the right dip on this one here. Let's take a look at this last leg here. 50% is solid right at the 95 level. 6-1-8 at 94.50. You could get aggressive at the 95 here, or the 94.50 seems a little bit more prudent. 95 isn't bad at all, but if 95 breaks, I don't know if the 94.50 is going to hold. My suspicion is that due to the price action reversal situation here, it probably wouldn't hold. Let's take a look at a 1 hour. Okay, so we had the nice little zigzag pattern. It treated the 38.2 as a pretty clear resistance or support here. Had a nice little bounce, but it was corrective in nature. The 20 EMA held, and now we're past it. So it seems like it wants to retest this 95. According to Ichimoku, we would still be bearish on a short-term basis here. Long-term, we'd be bullish. On a short-term, we'd be bearish. This thing had the continual sell signal here. It re-entered in right above here. That's where we're at right now. Momentum is slowly building here, though. So keep an eye. It's really a mixed bag right here. I would only take probably a 95 entry, and then after that, I probably would wait until I had a much deeper correction on this pair. All right, before we move on to FXXer, and so before we move on to pound dollar, Jack's asking momentum indicator, histogram MACD, which is good for momentum indicator? Well, the momentum's good for the momentum indicator. And I like them both in combination. You're welcome, Wen. I like them both in combination. Mostly I like to use them as a combo for divergence. If I'm just looking to see where the momentum is in the pair, I'm not trying to use the momentum as a divergent signal or anything like that, then I will look at the momentum, really see where is the internal momentum in the pair. I don't need to look at the MACD histogram for that. However, if I have some sort of impulsive move followed by a corrective move where we're running into some sort of resistance, well then I will look to the momentum and the MACD histogram for some sort of divergence. And so if I have that, then I'll look at both of them to kind of cue me into, hey, this thing is likely going to be moving in the continuation of the directions to say the impulsive followed by the corrective here. So I will look for that, absolutely, in combination. Otherwise, if I don't have any of that, then I'm really just going to look at momentum to measure the momentum for a pair. So hopefully that answers your question. Strat, did I show the USD? If so, you guessed you missed it. Yes, I did, but I could probably go back to it after we clear all the other pairs out and request. So like a good DJ, I want to make sure I play all the songs and pips and pairs that you like. And then after that, then we can go back and play some of the slow dance ones here. So no problem. All right, pound dollar. All right. Hands down, pound dollar is in a short-term bullish cycle. Other than this brief dip below, it's been continually tracking higher since the 94.60, not 60, but 60 touchdown there. And so it's just continually tracking higher. So everything Ichimoku is saying still intraday bullish. The Tenkan line hasn't kind of curled over it on an intraday basis. It's had subtle, over the subtle fades, yes. But bottom line is now Found cloud support right at 99, went all the way up to $2. One thing to note about the $2 level, not just because of the fact that it's $2, but also take a look at this thing here. Let's step out for a second. Step out more in 6 months. Let's step out a year. Okay, this is what I'm looking for actually. We are running into an all-important fib here. The 61.8. 61.8 is kind of, on a medium-term basis, the final line in the sand here. I don't suspect the 78.6 will hold. These things are 120 pips apart, roughly. So let's take a look here. If this one's 120, this one's 160 pips apart. So I don't think the 78.6 will hold. I think the 61.8 pound dollar seems to respond really well to 61.8s, 50s, and 61.8s. Doesn't do too well with 38.2s because it's so powerful. It just usually blasts right past them. So 50s and 61.8s are the ones that the pound dollar responds to the most, at least in my experience. And so if the 61.8 is going to hold, this really is the last stand here for it. But a break above 61.8 really threatens a move back to 204. And it changes the medium-term structure from bearish to mildly bullish. Once we break above 204, then we're back in a bullish cycle, and then we target a reversal back up to 211. But we're not there yet. So we need to see a little bit more here. We need to see a nice little close, a handsome close above $2. One thing to note is that definitely one thing to note is that the 94 is held consistently, and that the price section right here is still pretty choppy, but also look how high momentum is. Momentum is saying, look, this thing isn't done according to me. In the world of momentum, in the world of me, it's saying right here that we are not done, that we got more. It's very rare, again, that it's like a 90% chance that the top of momentum is not the top in the price action for that pair, particularly on a daily chart. On an intraday, it has a little bit greater chance of doing that, but on a daily chart, it's over 90%. And so, to me, that suggests that the next leg is going to really want to threaten this thing here. So on a short-term basis, I'm bullish. On a medium-term basis, I'm still overly bearish, but huge caution. Red signals are sirening off here saying, guess what? This short-term structure is really threatening this 202 and wants to take it out. Let's move in a little bit here. You're talking about a double bottom on the chart and target 202. So you're talking way down at the 204 level. If you are, well, it's actually more like a quadruple or quintuple bottom. And so if you can get an entry around 94, ooh, take it. Take it. Load up. Load up, saddle up. That's the way to take this one here. 204 has been awesome resistance. For some reason, it's been well protected. The largest breach, I think, was 60 some odd pips. Yeah, 64 pips was the largest breach. So you're talking a very small stop, maybe 100 at best. And you could target easily 198 and then $2. I mean, it's just massive, massive R to R on that one there. So if this is what you're talking about, absolutely. If you're talking about something else, let me know what you're thinking, because I'd like to know. All right. Also to note, let's see here. Moving on the intraday, we have seen decent rejection at the $2, but it's not impulsive by any means. Momentum is trying to pull this pair further down. The cloud has supported on the first attempt. Do we have anything on the 30 minutes? 30 minutes suggests, you know what? We got a little bit more to the downside, and this resistance or support probably will not hold. So 99 is probably the next major layer. Daily pivot right there. Ooh, interesting. And another medium pivot right here at 99 flat. So aggressive players can buy here. I'd be cautious, though. On an intraday 30-minute chart, momentum is not behind this move by any means. So very cautious. Caution is warranted. That's what we'll say. All right, so we've gone over pound dollar. We're coming into our final rounds here. Anybody have any last requests before we move on? Now, just to let you know, I will not be teaching this Friday. Why? Because I'm on holiday. I'm on holiday come this Friday. I'm actually on holiday pretty much starting tomorrow. So, I just booked another trade on Aussie CAD, hit one of my signals, boom, I'm out. So I'll probably end it on that. Maybe I get some today. But I have to say I'm on holiday. So, ooh, we got one from Jack again. Good, Jack, you're hot today. So let's go with that. If you could run through the signal on the cloud buy, sell. Sure. And Mabel's asking, are markets usually quiet on holidays? Absolutely. Not only that, it's July 4th, and July 4th is, if I was to translate, it's usually a big party weekend for everybody. It's not like some sort of really religious thing behind it. It's a party weekend, and it's summer. The weather's been awesome. On top of it, July 4th is also on a Friday, so it's like the perfect setup for July 4th. And so I suspect that the U.S. markets are going to really quiet down. They're going to be dead on Friday, first of all. They're going to be totally dead on Friday. So I would not do any trading on Friday whatsoever. In fact, if personally, I'm packing up my bags at the end of today, maybe tomorrow, after New York. Because Asian session, if you notice, the Asian sessions have been relatively quiet lately. They haven't been too exciting. There hasn't been any major breaks in the Asian session. Maybe one or two on the yen pairs, but other than that, nothing else is breaking during the Asian session. So I suspect that if you want to take your trading to the end this week, then go till Thursday. As soon as New York's really over, then I would say call it a week. I suspect that you'll see lighter volumes on Thursday just because of the July 4th being on a Friday. And I personally am winding down by the end of Wednesday New York session. I really won't really take any more trades unless I see a really cherry setup. I'll probably be done. I'm headed to my mountain retreat for that. So will be a non-event on Thursday. I think you're going to see that I think NFP is going to be a little bit wacky because of the July 4th. I don't think people are going to really stay in the U.S. here just to really be around for NFP. And so do I find that the dollar generally weakens during the U.S. holidays? You know what? I usually have to be reminded that there is a holiday. Somebody has to remind me that there is a holiday. So I couldn't necessarily tell you that it generally weakens during the holidays. That is a possibility, but it's on a weak note as a whole. So in fact, if you know of any other holidays coming up, please send me a note. I'd like to know about it. I generally don't pay attention to holidays. I usually have to have somebody tell me, and it's usually through accident that I find that out. So in fact, I had to have somebody remind me about Christmas or something like that. So that being the case, all right, so let's run through dollar Swiss, quick buy and sell signal, and then we will wrap this thing up here. All right, dollar Swiss, dollar Swiss, looking pretty boring. Bet you some pivots have something to do with this. Maybe, yeah, sort of not. Okay, it's in a total humdrum state right now. There could be a potential buy signal. Actually, this could be something interesting. There could be an interesting potential buy signal because look at where the cloud bottom is here and the EMA is right there. If we were to get incredibly bullish here, let me move this chart down a little bit more. If we were to get incredibly bullish and say bust out of this range here, then we could create a medium strength buy signal if we were to bust out of this range. I'd probably wait for the R1 to be breached. So I would want a breach of this probably, and definitely a close above this top here. But we definitely could get a buy signal on the 30-minute chart here. We need to really clear this range though and clear the pivot before we really go in on anything. 1 hour chart, let's get rid of pivots for a moment. 1 hour chart is suggesting that we could also see a breach. This is also interesting. The cloud top is right where the pivot is as well. So a break of this little consolidation period here could be fascinating for this. This could really open up some fresh upside. Do we have any fibs that we need to watch out for is another question. Fib, the first fib right at 102.50. So 102.50 is a hot spot for this pair. You got cloud top breach, you got pivot breach, and you would have a potential medium strength buy signal here. So I would keep an eye on this one here. That would definitely, yeah, I would keep an eye on this one here to see a potential buy signal there. Both the 30-minute and the 1 hour suggesting there may be one on the horizon. However, when I step back and look at the dailies, it's not pretty. So if you were going to be buying, it would have to be pure short term. It would have to be pure session. No problem, FX I'd be happy to wrap it up here. So it would have to be just pure in and out within one session, and then that's it. Because bottom line is you have this looming overhead at 105, which has held quite well. In fact, if this thing gets back up to 105, if it doesn't do it in impulsive fashion, sell the big Jesus out of it. So between 105 and 106 is where I got orders parked. It's already worked once, and I'm just waiting to get the opportunity again. As long as the oscillators are favorable, look for the next leg down if it gets back up to 105. All right, blaze through a couple quick questions there. What platform do I trade with to get the cloud? I don't get this charting software through my platform. This is IntelliCharts. This is their desktop, their pro version here. So it's got the cleanest version of the cloud I could possibly imagine. If you have questions, I have accounts that I can get you for IntelliCharts at an incredibly discounted price. They charge $100 a month. I can get you a year's subscription for about $500, which is less than half the price there. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap it up there. I want to thank you all for coming. So Al, good to see you. Zig, I'll be contacting you. FX George, good to see you. Rod, FXer, Zool, Tom, Hera, Dada, that's pretty cool. Or Hera, Saeed, some new people. RC Pips, good to see you again. Bobby, Dave F. Ile, Mabel, nice to see you. Anil, Roberto, Wen, my man. FX Nugget, Merc Fuller, Jack, Riv K, Sulit, JM, Art, Jeff, Duba, that's a cool name. Tony, Len, Strat, good to see you again. And Giuliano and CVJ, usual. So that's pretty much it. I want to say thank you all for coming. I hope you all have an awesome holiday. I will not be seeing you until next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Other than that, thanks again to FX Street for hosting this show. I hope you guys continue to support them because they kick all butt across the FX world. So that's it. Until then, if you have any questions about my services, private mentoring, proprietary strategies, I have all of them for you. I am your candy man when it comes to that. You can visit my website, www.2ndskies.com, or email me directly, info@2ndskies.com. Until then, good holiday and good hunting, everyone.